Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and this is another of my Year of Granny Square tutorials, and this one is for this absolutely gorgeous moss stitch granny square. Now, a couple of things before we start. I do have a little project which I'm not really going to show you how to make. I'm just going to tell you because it's so simple, and I will do that at the end. Well, I'll do it throughout, I think. And the other is that sometimes with a small kind of little stitch like this, it can travel if you work one way, so you can get that twisting. Now, I don't think I get that so much. It's something to do with the way that I crochet. My granny squares don't seem to twist. But if you find that that happens to you, then it doesn't really matter with this if you change direction with every single row. So that, you know, you go one way, turn your work, go the other. Because if you look at the back, it really does look the same. It's very, very difficult to see which is the back and which is the front. It's only the fact that I sewed my end in there that I can tell that that's actually the back. But yeah, so if you do get twisting, then that is a way to stop it. But I don't find that I get the twisting. So with this, I've used, obviously, Icy on Picasso in the colour of rainbow colours. And I've also used black. And a lot of people find working in black a bit of a nightmare. And also, it is to show you a bit of a nightmare when you're working with it and doing a tutorial. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use the Picasso, and the accent colour will be this pink. And it is a lovely sort of size match, so nothing wrong there, then you'll be able to see. I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook, and if you have one, a little stitch marker in the early rounds is a bit of a godsend. And that is because these stitches at the centre are so tiny, it's really a bit of a nightmare to try and figure out where you are. I don't find I need one, but if you do struggle to see where your stitches are, then a stitch marker is the answer. Once you get going, it becomes a lot simpler without it. So I will just show you the project that I made then. I made this little pouch, which you can put credit cards or loyalty cards from the supermarket or anything like that in there, or my earbuds will go in there. And all I did was I sewed my square like this, just pulling the corners to the centre, and I went around these three corners, sewed them together just by whip stitch, and then I attached my black and I went around this part here. But when I got to this part, I did a little loop. So I did the loop on the previous round actually, but I just did a little loop there, so that would be a kind of a buttonhole. But be careful not to start your next round right in the corner. You want to kind of slip stitch at the beginning, otherwise you will get this kind of vibe. So I just wanted to show you, it does kind of, it's a little bulky, but it's not too much of a problem, but it does sort of show a little bulky bit at the side. So what you need to do is your first and last stitch need to be just slip stitches, and then all you've got to do is pop a button on. So as you can see, it's a very, very simple project, so I won't really show you how to do that. It's just a simple one, but this square will become part of the overall project. Bear with me, sorry about that, I needed to cough. So I'm going to start with a magic circle, magic ring, magic loop. I give up how many names it's got. But my version of this is extremely simple. You can start with a small chain, but I wanted that very, very tight centre. And it's ever so easy. I'll leave a nice long chain and just make a loop. Simple, make a loop. Pop the hook in and bring the yarn through that loop. And then do a chain, and it is done. Absolutely no fuss, done. Okay, we're only using one stitch, and that is a UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US. That's all we're doing. So we're going to put our first one in, and we're going to chain one. Now the reason I'm doing just one here, and this is half a corner, because I want this to be seamless and I want to carry my yarn up that corner. So this one chain will be the start of our side. So now I'm going to do a corner, which is one stitch. Did I do a chain? Did I? I did. It just didn't look very much like I'd done a chain. But before we go, I just want to show you, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, that chain. I'm going to put a stitch marker in this stitch right here, the first one that we did, because, as I said, these early rounds get confusing as to where your stitch is, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so we're working over the tail as we do with every magic ring, magic circle, loop. And now we're going to make a full corner. So we're going to do one stitch, two chain, and one more. That's our corner. Okay, so a corner, we have two chain. We're going to chain one for the side, make another corner. It's quite fiddly. Okay, so we have half a corner, a full corner, a full corner, one chain. Now we're going to do a full corner. Chain one. We're going to complete that corner. I'm going to make this a little tighter. There we are. So now I'm going to make the rest of this corner by making my stitch. I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and there's my stitch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a UK half treble. It's not I've really said I was only going to do one stitch, didn't I? But this is just my way of joining to make a nice gap. So I'm going to yarn over, and so I've got 3 on my hook. So yarn over, pull up a loop in that very first stitch. I'm not going to finish it with this yarn though. I'm going to pop that down, and I'm going to bring in my new yarn. So you can join your yarn however you normally do. I'm going to, I think, take this off of my genie, because it's I did actually, when I was making this, just keep moving the yarn over each other to sort of make room, but I'm going to keep this big ball on the genie. Okay, so now I have my other colour, and I'm going to make a slip knot join this time. Just depends how the mood takes me. Right, so I'm going to hold on to this so it doesn't become baggy. So I'm holding on to it with my finger, and I'm just going to bring my loop through that, and so as it's like completing the stitch. So now that UK half treble, half double US that I said I wasn't going to do another stitch has become the same distance as my corner. So now in this corner I'm going to do half a corner again. So I'm going to just make my one stitch, and I'm going to chain one, and then in that one chain space that is the corner, you can see it's actually taken on a square. You can pull this tighter if you wish, or you can just leave it for now. Doesn't really matter much. So I'm going to work over this one tail, but the rest I'm going to just leave. I'm just going to leave them there, because one is my yarn that I'm going to take up with me, and the other is my center ring. Okay, so I'm going to do one in the side and a chain. So between our sides we have one chain. In our corner, you know, we have 2 chains, as we mentioned earlier. So they are fiddly, but once you get in, it becomes much simpler. So I'm going to do 2 chain back in the same stitch to make my corner. Am I going over the yarn? I am, aren't I? Don't need to be doing that. Be very careful not to work over your yarn, just your tail. Keep them aside. That's better. Okay, go back in and do my corner. Now we've got our full corner. So we've got half a corner, we've got the side separated by one chain. Again, one chain, and we're going to go into that center, one chain space, and one chain. Now we're back at the corner, so we're going to do a full corner in there. And that's the last time I'll work over that yarn. And now you can see it's starting to take shape. In the chain space, we put one and one chain. In the corner, one stitch with two chain and another in the same space. One chain, one in the side, and one chain. Now we're going to complete this corner. And again, we're going to go into that first stitch with a UK half treble, half double US, and not complete it. Now, forget the tail, but we need to bring our yarn back in. Of course, again, if you want, you can still use that stitch marker until you don't need it anymore. So I'm just going to make sure that holding on to that yarn so it doesn't become baggy. I'm going to finish my corner with this yarn. And then I'm going to go back into that space and start my half corner. Okay, so now I'm not going to work over the yarn at all. I'm just going to push it aside over here so it doesn't get in the way. And I'm going to do one chain, and in these side pieces here, we're going to do one stitch and one chain. And now we have another one, because each time we go round, our sides will grow. And then in the corner, and we always do one chain between our sides. It's getting a nice square shape. So as I said before, if you find that your work twists, then just change direction. Instead of going in the same direction each round, when you change yarn, change the direction. But I find that mine doesn't do that, and I've got a theory as to why. I think it's something to do with the way that I crochet. Okay, so that first stitch is always a little harder to get into. And pop that round there, and this tail is in the way, isn't it? So if you any point you want to just sort that tail out, you know, and get rid of it, that's can only benefit you. So I'm going to make sure, holding on to that tail, that doesn't get any baggier, and go straight back in and start my next round. So I'll show you why I think mine doesn't twist. Okay, so when I go in, I always crochet kind of pulling over this way. It's just a way that I seem to crochet, and I think that pulls my stitch over a little bit and makes them more upright, rather than just kind of crochet like that. As you can see, it's now got a different direction. So when I do it, and it's something that I've always done, I kind of go straight into this side of the stitch, if you kind of understand what I mean. So it kind of pulls it over, not consciously, it's just something that I've always done. So this is actually all you do now. That's it. That is all you do. So it's nice and simple. Round the sides will grow every single round, and hopefully my choice of yarn means that you can see quite clearly what's happening. So there you are. It's nice and simple, this one, but really, really pretty. And I think as well, so much variety that you can achieve with it, because I think whatever yarn I've used to do the moss stitch always seems to look really, really stunning. And I mean, this ice yarn obviously looks stunning, whatever you do with it really. But incidentally, I do have it in my shop, hobbyrocks.co.uk. There's a link in the description box for that. But yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to have it for long, to be honest with you. Right, so now it's easier just to move that over that side. Now we're getting a little size so that we don't mix up our yarn tails. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that that's not loose. Bring up my yarn to pull through. Okay, so let's have a look at how that looks on the reverse side. You can see where it's pulling up. When I did the black one, it's not so prominent, but you can see a little bit of where I've brought the yarn up. You don't have to do that, obviously. You can end off every single row and start a new colour or work your ends in. But as you can imagine, there's an awful lot of ends in this. So I decided that as my little project, you weren't really going to see the back on that particular thing. I decided not to, and it's going to get in the way, that one. I decided not to do that and just to pull the yarn up with me. Now, if you're making a blanket or something that, I mean, if you're doing a cushion, you're not going to see the back. But, you know, if you're going to do something where you will see the back and you don't like the way that looks, then obviously, yes, you can change every single row if you want to. Will be a lot of ends. If you don't mind ends, then that's fine. So with this particular square, you can just do this as big as you want. It's kind of your desire, really. But with my overall project in mind, I've kind of stuck at this size. Well, I guess it's about 4.5 to 5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all of the squares that are appropriate for this blanket or whatever I'm making, several blankets. I'm going to make them this size, and that will give me chance to border them in a way to kind of make them all incorporated into a colour scheme. But the previous one was pink heart, so I think it was going to work out quite nicely, just to sort of put a few all together. So if you're new to this little project, what I'm doing is I'm doing a year of granny squares, and each of the granny squares will probably have a little project attached, like the one you saw earlier. I can't say they all will, but mostly they will have a little project in mind for that square. And then all of the squares that are appropriate to make into maybe a blanket or a couple of blankets, then I'll join them all as I go, and start kind of making something with all of them. I think, you know, there'll be so many squares that perhaps one blanket would be a little bit too much. So I will probably do a few little projects with it. So that's back at the start again. That is how we do it. And then all we have to do, once we've finished, move it out of the way, is give this a real tug and close that hole and secure that. I normally secure it by sewing a little knot, and then I just take my yarn through that centre to get rid of it. But that's how it's looking. Isn't it cute? I like it. So yeah, there we are. I don't need to show you any more, I don't think, because to be honest with you, you just keep going till as far as you want. Now with this, I measured it to be, hold on just one. Okay, so I measured this to be just shy of 5 inches, or it was about 12 centimeters, and it equates to 10 rounds to make this little project. That was all I did, was 10 rounds, and I just need to find myself a nice snazzy little button to put there, and then it's all completed. But yeah, you can make that bigger. You just keep going, make it bigger, and you can put an iPad or a Kindle or something along those lines in. But I don't know, I think mine's just going to have my earbuds in it, to be honest with you. But yeah, you just keep going until you get as big a project as you need. I mean, it could be that you want to make a cushion or something like that with it. It's just very beautiful little square, and even with these colours, it's just beautiful, really, really pretty. But obviously, choosing a colour to make this rainbow like pop is the key to what you end up with, I think. Anyway, that was the back. See what I mean? You can change direction every round and you wouldn't even know. Okay, well, that's the tutorial 3. This is week 3 of the year of Granny Squares. Hope you like that, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now.